Good evening. We're here with Mayor Riley H. Rogers to discuss something very important. As you may or may not know, there have been proposed changes by some of the members of the Board of Trustees here regarding changes, line items and people's positions being lined out of the budget, and other changes that are going to have a serious effect, a detrimental effect on the Village of Dalton. So Mayor Rogers, I just want to you're the best person as the mayor of the village to actually give us an overview of what's going on right now.
Well, actually what's going on is that some of the board members voted to amend our budget to exclude some of our vital employees that we have here that are in positions that actually make this village run. I vetoed that proposed budget. And this Monday, coming up, October 1st, it appears like this budget will be, the veto will be overwritten, I should say. And some of the key people here that's providing services to the village will be actually laid off.
Now, what's so strange about this is that despite the expert opinion of one of the trustees who has extensive financial experience, as well as the director of finances here for the village that knows the day in and day out reality of the Village of Dalton's finances, the board actually recommended changes that they actually said were unnecessary at this time.
That's correct.
So, in Mr. Kemp's report, there was absolutely some maybe overestimations on overtime. What he neglected, now I will go to the memo that was prepared, are the line items that were underestimated in terms of revenue that were not taken in consideration. We have over $845,000 worth of underestimations that were done by our finance director in an attempt to be conservative and make sure that we were realistic and live within our means. That was not considered. Also, in the projections in terms of salary cuts, you did not take into consideration that we're going to be 6 months into the year before any of these cuts take place. So your 305, I'm really not interested in your words. Your $305,000 that you're talking about is going to be about 150. After our litigation, we're going to be in the hole again, and we're going to be without service for the community and the residents. This is not the person that I think we should take the advice from. I will say again, we should go to the person. You didn't even have the consideration to call our finance manager and have this conversation with her. If she won't say it, she should be insulted. Most of the board should, and I see the residents are. I'll say, having said that, Ms. Redmond, please, I'm sorry for interrupting your presentation.
No problem, trustee. It is my professional opinion that we do not have to do layouts. We do not. The budget that I presented, shows a deficit of $218,000.
Start again, please.
It is my professional opinion that we do not have to do these layouts.
You know, Ms. Yvonne Redmond is a talented financial director we have here in the Village of Dalton. She deals on a daily basis with our numbers, it's of her opinion, after going through the budget and the adjustments that some of these board members want to make, it's not necessary to lay off these 10 employees. Also, as you mentioned, one of our trustees who has an extensive background in finance, 15-year manager of a bank, he's looked through the numbers, and he said, Mayor, this is not necessary. To have these valued employees laid off is not necessary. So basically, it's a plight against me. It appears that some of the people that are being laid off here, some of those trustees think that they're supportive of me, and they're actually going to put them out of their jobs. It's gonna create an issue for some of the employees in regards to health and medical care.
I was there when Trustee Muhammad was the media director and they fired him. He turned around and sued the village. It was wrong. The best religion is to treat people how you want to be treated. If it was wrong to do it to you, then it's wrong to do it to anybody else. In the name of politics, in the name of the budget. I have multiple sclerosis. I've had it for the past 8 years. By the grace of God, I'm doing good. But I'm going to lose my insurance. And this man knows that because he claims he's my teacher. I know him before all this. I was the one recording the board meetings when he was the media director. He was getting $60,000 a year, and I get paid less than that. And I can't believe, Pearson, you went with this? Then you went with this? Y'all gonna go with this knowing I need my insurance? Knowing I need my insurance? Am I taking care of my family? Y'all gonna do that? In the name of, that's the same reason he used. I can get a clip from downstairs that he spoke and said, I've been told by one trustee that we have to make certain budget cuts. And then he turns around, gets on the board and does the same thing. That is terrible. That shows you a lot about a person's character. That you can go and get on this board and do the same thing to people that's been done to you, and it was wrong when it was done to you.
We have a new resident in town. One of our employees came in recently, had purchased a home here, has some medical issues that's going on. So you know, it just really appears to be kind of hateful and spiteful to do something to these employees that's actually going to interrupt village services.
Now, there was an original budget proposed which didn't identify any layoffs, and that budget was allegedly given to the public so that the public could review. But then when it came time to adopt the budget, at the last minute these amendments were rushed in, and it's our understanding that they didn't even want to hear from the public at the hearing that was set up for the public to actually discuss the budget. They actually voted initially, or some wanted to vote against hearing them actually share their thoughts, right?
For such a big event, I think we really want, and with all the crowd participation, I would really want to see if we would take a motion that we have citizens address prior to the board meeting so we can get input from the residents.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor to have the citizens address and have the citizens address this amended budget. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been motioned and second to hear from our citizens first before we go over this budget. Roll call.
On the motion to move up citizens address by Trustee House, second by Trustee Henyard. Trustee Muhammad.
No.
Trustee, that was no, right?
Yes.
Trustee Stubbs.
No.
Trustee House.
Aye.
Trustee Denton.
Aye.
Trustee Pearson.
No.
Trustee Henyard.
Aye.
3-3, Mayor.
Okay, it's 3-3. I get a chance to break the tie. Aye. I want to actually hear from these residents. Some of you have heard what's going on, and I want you to come up. We want to try to limit your comments to 3 minutes. That's correct. You know, we try to have public hearings in regards to our budget and in regards to the different items that are on the budget. And some of the residents came out to voice their opinion in regards to cuts, in regards to some of the services that were going to be interrupted when this budget was presented. And as you say, you know, as you said, there was no cuts in regards to employment. And then for some reason, all of a sudden, it turned around, and now we're looking at losing 10 of our valued employees here.
Now, from looking at the list, these are really the key components. Everyone in the village, of course, wears many hats, but these are members of the various staffs who are key components as it relates to interacting with the residents, providing services to the residents, communicating our events and communicating services to the residents, conveying data to the residents via our municipal channels, fixing things, you know, that many people don't realize as far as the maintenance and public works, these areas. Do you want to kind of give an overview, because maybe it'll help the public conceptualize who's actually, what positions are going to impact them?
Well, first of all, it looks like it appears to be that they're going to cut everybody out of my office. You know, the mayor's office, you need a good support staff, such as yourself. This show is being presented by our media director, our chief of staff, who wears many hats. You know, when she came and said, "Mayor, what's my job position?" I said, "Everything," and she just about does everything.
My name is Antonio Boswell. I do not live in this community, but I am very much a part of it. I have done various amounts of community service in this community, and I'm here a lot as my mom is the chief of staff here. Nevertheless, I'm here for the people of Dalton too, because what's going on is very wrong, and it concerns me how someone so committed to this community can be just easily taken out of it. Why? Why do the trustees want this? Everything I've heard from the citizens today, it's just been positive things about the people who work here. So why is the government trying to take them away? Why is your government here trying to take them away? That shows you something about the people that sit up here. They're supposed to listen to you. This is a democracy. They listen to the people. You have the power. And so, going back to it, it makes no sense to me how you can get rid of people who are doing only good in the community. Miss Elizabeth Scott, my mother, whenever we're at home, you know, she'll get the call from the community, from all of the citizens, even though, you know, she's not at work, either before or after 10 p.m., 11 p.m., 12 p.m., 1 a.m., 3 a.m., you know. She comes home late, goes out early to come here and support this community because she loves it, frankly. Whenever I come home, whenever she comes home, it's just a bunch of talk about Dalton because she loves the community, loves you people. She's seriously considering moving here. She really likes it that much. And from the time that I've spent here, it's a beautiful community that's only blossoming and becoming a great place because of all of you. So you can't get rid of people who are only doing good in the community. My mother, Ashad, Ed, Matt Stacy, all of these people have only done good in the community. I have not heard one citizen complain this whole thing. I have not heard one. That shows you something. And all I have to say is remember, they listen to you.
And you know, it's going to interrupt these services. What you're watching now, you know, our media director, Ed, Steve, he's on the list. Yourself, Ashad, Trish, you're on the list to be laid off. Elizabeth Scott, our chief of staff, she's on the list to be laid off. And I can go on, and I will go on as we continue the program here, but it's a shame that these important positions are going to fall by the wayside because of political anger, if you will. So we're going to do everything in our power to try and make sure that we continue these services. I just don't know how we can do it right now.
Now, do the trustees really have an understanding of what these departments entail? I mean, because it seems like it would be clear dealing with these departments and deleting the experienced help that is there, that it would have a negative effect on, especially as we go into the winter months. I'm thinking specifically as it relates to public works in those areas. Yeah, well, you know, I'm going to say, as far as chief of staff, every administrator, every mayor has had a chief of staff previously. As far as this media center and people that have been watching this media center and this channel for over the years, you know, there's no what can I say? Yeah, I mean, there's no comparison to where we were when we came into office and where we are today. You know, we can do in this media center whatever the local news stations do. You know, and then of course yourself in regards to communications, along with this station, there was always someone. There was always someone that narrated it or did shows like we've done here, and it's just it's a shame really that we're going to miss a lot of these services. Yeah, we've also had the opportunity through you know, with this show and the presentations on Channel 4 to connect people with groups such as Neighborhood Housing Services, ComEd came in regularly. These are actually things that will benefit the village. Elected officials have reached out to us as a result of our outreach. These are people who you talk to and who you want to bring in to communicate, to give services and benefits and have resources that the village can benefit from and our residents can benefit from. Yeah, that's correct. It's so important to have relationships and being mayor here, and for the village to have relationships. And what we try to do
here with our staff and the mayoral staff is put that together. All the elected officials, all the other organizations that we brought into here, and just to help the residents, just to provide them information, and to disassemble this our staff and this platform is just it's a sad commentary to the residents.
Ironically, as we're talking about employment and jobs, when you first came into office, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, the unemployment rate in Dalton was hovering around 17.2%.
Correct.
Over the years, as a result of the hiring events and your emphasis on jobs and hiring Dalton residents when the businesses come in and presenting a good face of Dalton to bring these people and make it attractive to them, you were able to reduce the unemployment rate to under 6% here in the village of Dalton. How do you think that will be impacted by these changes? Because of course, you know, many of these events, it's going to be a little bit more difficult now to kind of put them on and let the people know about what's going on and staff them, et cetera.
Well, you know, another thing that the mayor's office does is outreach. And one of the things that we try to do, or that we've done, it's not that we try to do, that we've done is put on a number of hiring events. And we brought in close to 17 new businesses. And one of the things that we demand of those businesses is that they hire our residents. And over the past 4 years, when we've implemented the hiring programs and we've demanded these new businesses hire our residents, we've hired over 370 of our residents here in these local businesses, which, not by our numbers, but by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, have recorded the employment that has occurred here in the village of Dalton. And they basically, they keep record by Social Security deductions, Medicare deductions, and taxes and things like that. So, like as you said, we went from 17.6% down under, I think approximately right now we're at 5.6%. And that's an accolade that we should toot our horn on, because that's what the mayor's office does. It reaches out, it tries to bring in new businesses, and we've been successful in that. We've you know, made a demand of those employers to hire our residents. And you know, and one of those things that have come out of this is that one of our companies in the village of Dalton here, who had not originally been as friendly as they are to us now in regards to hiring our residents, was voted #1 manufacturing company in Cook County for the hiring that they've done for our residents. You know, when I came into the office, we had 419 employees, was only 7 people from Dalton working there. Unacceptable. We went to them. We've had the Senator Durbin, come out. We met with the top level principals and management, and we demanded that they hire more of our residents. And right now, they've hired over 75 of our residents here, with starting salaries at $58,000 going into the door. You know, so those are some of the things we do, and these are some of the things that's going to be halted or interrupted by reducing our staff. You know, yourself and our director here and our chief of staff. That's what we do.
We've been able to see that every second Saturday of the month, you have Coffee with the Mayor. And you know, the attendance has steadily grown as you've provided a platform and a forum for not only elected officials, but most public servants and organizations to actually let the people know what types of things are available through their offices. The national movement, the Village of Dalton is connected to the Wear Orange anti-illegal gun initiative. You were one of the leaders in raising money for breast cancer awareness, one of the regional leaders for Real Men Wear Pink. These are things that are needed to show the true face of the Village of Dalton, as opposed to what's always happening. That is, you know, every community has its problems and issues that they try to address. Every mayor has issues that he has to deal with and crises that he has to deal with, but you usually don't have to deal with it while battling those who are also supposed to be a part of the board. Is that correct?
You know, Coffee with the Mayor, I started that when I initially came into office.
Yeah.
We're going into 5 years now with that.
Yes.
And we've had officials from the federal level,
right,
state level, local level, that has provided information for our residents to help them in certain situations. So, you know, past governor, ex-Governor Quinn, or former Governor Quinn, I should say.
Yeah.
You know, we had over 400 people to come out. You know, we've included, and we've reached out to every entity in government to assist with information provided for our residents. And it's important. It's important that we do that. And a lot of people don't know, and residents don't know what goes on behind the scenes to make those things happen. So, you know, it's detrimental that we continue those efforts.
Many residents benefited from the Hardest Hit program, which helped people who were behind on their mortgages, who had a significant loss of income or a family event that caused them to lose money. You also were involved in the flooding that has taken place here.
Yeah.
You were aggressive in going after the you know, the flood dollars that were available and the organizations that help people to mitigate some of the flooding. Recently, Cook County awarded us a grant of over $600,000 to deal with the railways and the railroads and some of the with the shipyards that are in the area. I mean, these are the things that are happening that are making Dalton move forward.
That's right. And you can't get things done overnight. It takes time to negotiate things and make things happen, to get funding. You know, you can request funding this year. You may not get it to next year if you're eligible to get it at all. But the flooding, that's something I want to continue to move forward. You know, we've had the Deep Tunnel project that has opened up here in the south suburbs that has helped us with our flooding.
Oh yeah, just recently, actually, we had the Department of Planning for Cook County come out and really share a total success story for Mr. Kevin Griffin, one of our longtime Village of Dalton residents, and who had extensive flooding for years, yeah, and got, I guess, over $25,000 of repairs done as a result of the Rain Ready Steering Committee that was chaired by the Chief of Staff, Elizabeth Scott, here on Wednesdays, working together with people. And
Elizabeth did an excellent job in continuing to work with Rain Ready, which is a funded program by Cook County. We were successful. Dalton was successful with the highest award in dollars, $600,000. We were able to provide flooding relief for several of our residents. So these are some of the behind the scenes that people don't know what happens. Now, I wanted to continue my efforts in the flooding because it's still a big problem in Dalton. Yes. And I've met with commissioners, and we're looking to get additional funding to have some additional relief for the funding, for the flooding.
Another thing recently regarding our property taxes. Of course, we sponsored something for the seniors who were eligible for their exemption, their senior exemption, and the senior exemption homeowners freeze, and close to $70,000 of savings were generated to those seniors who came out.
Responded to our letters.
That's right.
We sent out letters to all the seniors that were affected and missed their senior freeze.
We had an attorney come and assist these residents on his own time, and he volunteered. As a result of his relationship with you in the village and other events, he was more than willing to come out and spend a Saturday helping the residents of the Village of Dalton in service.
Right, and we sent out over 200 letters, yes, advising those residents that you know, they missed out on the senior freeze deal. So some of them ultimately responded right to the county.
Directly to Markham.
Went right directly to Markham, which I don't have the numbers in regards to how much they saved, but they actually is a benefit for them to go out. And then the other ones came to the Village Hall when we put together that program that Saturday, and we had their attorney come out and volunteer to help these seniors. Yeah. And as you said, it was close to $70,000 in refunds. They were happy.
I've been checking it regularly too, because that list comes out weekly, and really the amount of people who are still on that list is really small now. It started off over 200, yeah, and now the list of people who are eligible who haven't returned their, you know, or taken benefit, yes, is really small now. So, Mayor, we've given an overview of some of the events and some of the things that have happened out of the Mayor's office and in your administration that could be impacted by these cuts. So now we can kind of you know, kind of get into the deep dive and talk about some of the departments specifically and those who will be affected.
Right.
First, we have we've talked about the media department, chief of staff, and everything, but now we have human resources, the human, yeah, resources department.
Our human resource person has many years of experience, and she actually controls the flow if you will, the benefits, the hiring of personnel, the background checks, and ultimately provides that information to hire employees.
Angela Blacher.
Yes, Ms. Angela Blacher. And, you know, I don't know of a municipality that does not have a human resource person. In regards to keeping vacation time, sick time, other incidents, and you know, that a human resource department person or specialist does. And sometimes there's challenges with employees in regards to assistance that employees need, like FMLA, other programs or other personal issues that that the human resource person has to keep in confidence, that goes into their files, disciplinary issues, performance issues. So I'm not sure what they're actually thinking when they want to cut this person out. This person has been here, she has a history, she's familiar with all the employees right now, and it's a shame that we're going to get rid of a human resource person.
Okay, now Scott Gilmore, maintenance engineer.
Scott Gilmore, you know, I can't say enough about Scott Gilmore. Scott Gilmore was first introduced to me by our old fire chief, Chief Hughes, who passed away. And Scott did the remodeling of the fire department kitchen, which was paid for by the members of the fire department. And I just looked at the work that he did, the detail that he did, and in my conversation with him when I first met him, he told me he was a home builder. And he had several employees and he was building homes. And he had expertise in a number of areas, including construction, electrical, plumbing. So I decided to bring Scott on to save this village some money. And the first thing that Scott was able to do, we had got some estimates on our fire department roof. I think it was $170,000, and then the police department roof, that was $120,000. So Scott said, "Mayor, I can repair the roof for much cheaper than that." So Scott went out and bought $6,000 worth of material and repaired both roofs. And today they're in order. There's no leaking and there's no worry about deterioration of moisture there. So right off the bat, he came in and saved us, you know, well over $200,000. And he's continued to do those certain things, build offices here, run electric, run plumbing, our HVAC system, air conditioning. He's been called out at 3 o'clock in the morning to make, you know, when the police department didn't have heat. There's a number of things. He's on a salary. And I mean, to get rid of this person, and I think basically it's because of his support of me and what we're trying to do, move forward. This media center, for example, this was an old
bank vault.
They had safety deposit boxes in them, and we got a local junk man, if you will, to come in and remove all the steel, which was going to cost us well over $10,000 to get done. So they came in, removed all that, and Scott had completely rebuilt this center, and with electrical, I mean, tiling the floors, construction, putting up walls, putting up you know, countertops and things like that, which would have cost us a great deal of money, and he actually did it. So you know, to get rid of a person like this, where all of those repairs, you know, and then it can happen in the middle of the night. Our furnace went out in the middle of the night. Scott, we call Scott, boom, he's here in 30 minutes, 25 minutes, and he's made the repairs. So in the morning, when employees come in, when residents come in, that we've been able to operate. So anything that Scott has done, I'm going to say this: he's probably saved us over the last 3.5 years at least over $2 million in service and things that they've done. So all of these things now is going to have to be contracted out, and at a rate much higher, you know, than we were actually paying Scott on a salary basis. And you know, they talk about this being cost-saving measures. This is actually going to increase our debt. You know what it'll cost you to call somebody out in the middle of the night at 3 o'clock in the morning because the heat went out?
Yeah, any contractor, anybody knows.
First of all, you're going to have to compete and see if they're available for service. And then that rate automatically goes up when you call them out on an emergency basis. We call Scott out on Sundays, on Saturdays, and to cut him out of this budget is really, really sad. So
Matthew Stacy, Superintendent of Public Works.
Matt Stacy has been here. He just celebrated his 20th year last week. He's our superintendent, and they want to get rid of our public works superintendent. So who's the boss then? Who's the boss? And one of the reasons that first of all, when I came in the office, our old superintendent had retired or resigned, and so I asked the members who had worked with Matt Stacy I had them all vote who they thought should be the superintendent. Matt received the highest vote, but the other votes that came in, there was probably some people that were I wouldn't say as qualified as Matt. And one of the reasons that I picked Matt was that the fact that his father worked here for close to 40 years. And one of the things that you have to know is the underground structure here, where to turn the water off, where to turn it on in regards to fires or fire hydrants and things like that. And so I thought that it would be wise to select Matt, even with him being him having a number of the votes that he did, because of his father's history here. And he can actually, if he ran into a problem where there's some hidden valves or different things for the infrastructure, he could call his dad and say, hey, I need some help here, and we would get it immediately. So Matt, they want to cut out my public works superintendent.
Well, you know, you mentioned who's going to be in charge. They also are proposing to cut off the supervisor as well.
That's it.
John Conway.
The
public works supervisor, who would be the one directly under the superintendent.
That's correct. The other previous administrations had 2 supervisors and the superintendent. We've operated and we tried to save that money in regards to operating with 1 supervisor and 1 superintendent. And not only do they, like you said, they want to cut out the superintendent, they also want to cut out the supervisor under the superintendent. So who runs the ship? You know, this is a move, I think, that, like I said, and I've said it many times, those people who they think are supportive of me, is political, and they're cutting these people off, and it's going to definitely interrupt with the services that we provide the village residents.
Now, you're already working short staff on public works, but they're proposing to actually cut 2 more.
That's correct. As you know, public works, or maybe you don't know, but Public Works contract requires us to have 19 men. Right now, we're already operating 2 short. We have 17 persons. So this board has, and not everyone, I want to say this, not everyone on this board voted for this, but the majority voted to cut out 2 additional Public Works people. And we've already strained with the cutting of grass and the other duties that Public Works does. Now we're getting ready to go into winter time, and it probably will affect some of those workers that have a CDL in regards to driving trucks for snow plowing and salting the streets and other additional water main breaks. You know, we've been very fortunate over the last 3 years. Well, yeah, over the last 3 years, 2.5 years or 3 years, that we haven't had a great number of water main breaks. But my first year in office, we had over 40 water main breaks, and we were required to call guys out to repair these. And so this is another derailment that's going to hurt the services of the village.
As we, kind of wrap up, Mayor, we've received many calls over the past few weeks in the mayor's office from residents who are upset about this. Anyone who watched the budget meeting saw that the vast majority of the people there were against the cuts, especially at one time the question was asked, who's against these cuts? And everybody almost in the room stood up.
Right.
In addition to having the director of finances say these were unnecessary. How do you square that, with knowing that the general public and those who are represented by the government of the Village of Dalton are generally against this, knowing it will have a detrimental effect on many of the services, the experienced leadership and institutional knowledge that you're taking away by lining out these individuals?
Well, I'm going to answer that, but one thing you forgot, you forgot another position. And that other position is in the water department.
Okay, yes.
And as you know, we've had some issues with the water department.
Yes.
And we're trying to get them corrected. Why would you want to lay a person off in the water department that is trying to help correct this situation? We've got our issues, and I want to continue to try to improve the services there. If you remember, I tried to bring some additional water meter readers in to make sure we get accurate readings and things like that. I was voted against on that. And so that's another critical point or critical position that's going to affect and interrupt services by the residents.
The finance director, again, who is intricately involved in the day in and day out operations and knows what's owed and what we are responsible for and works very closely with you on a regular basis, said that these cuts were unnecessary. And yet, certain members of the board have decided still to go forward with them.
Well, I'm going to say that, if you don't listen to your constituency, they remember that at the polls. And, we don't want to go 2 steps forward and 4 steps backwards. So we have to listen to our voters, and we have to do exactly what the voters want us to do. And by not listening to your constituency, who has been here, attended these meetings, have been to the finance meetings and heard these numbers, and heard from our finance director, and heard from one of our trustees. They have an extensive background in finance. I'm gonna be honest with you, I think it's to their detriment. The thing is to move the village forward, make it solvent, and have good government. And the ones that push us to do that is our constituency. And it's it's very difficult to govern when things are done for political reasons. Now, the flip side of this is that it's been pretty well identified that these employees that are getting cut have been supportive of me. Some of them were my hire. And they did what they tried to do right. And upon advice of our village attorney, who has warned them that laying these people off, or basically firing these people for political reasons, is going to cause some litigation. One of our trustees that sit on the board now was a former employee of the Village of Dalton.
And who is actually like the proponent of these cuts.
Who is actually, you're exactly right, the proponent of these eliminations of these employees. He sued the village, and he was awarded a lot of money, because he felt he was targeted politically, and he was unfairly dismissed.
Some members of this board that want to terminate these employees, this was a result of when Trustee Muhammad and a couple other employees sued the Village of Dalton. Defendant's decision This is item 24 in the lawsuit, federal lawsuit. Defendant's decision to terminate the plaintiffs, which Trustee Muhammad was one, was motivated solely by the plaintiffs' association with Mayor Rogers and the fact that they were appointed by Mayor Rogers. This was one of the allocations that were mentioned into the federal lawsuit. Secondly, here's line number 29. Defendants terminated plaintiffs' employment solely due to their political association to Mayor Rogers. Line number 39. The boards individually and collectively, and thereby the village's termination of the plaintiffs, were due to their membership in the class of employees that chose to associate, support, and were appointed by Mayor Rogers. John, you were involved in this lawsuit. Attorney Murphy, what was the outcome?
I know the outcome, but I was not involved in the lawsuit.
Okay.
I wouldn't get involved in it because of the nature of the allegations against people loyal to you. There was a settlement, as I recall, was in the nature of $250,000 or $300,000.
And the settlement went to who?
It went to the individual plaintiffs and their lawyer.
So, as you can see, it costs the residents, you, a lot of money to settle the case that was against Trustee Muhammad, who was a plaintiff, who is spearheading the termination of these employees. So you can actually look for litigation, because as this lawsuit says, associated with Mayor Rogers, and that's exactly what's happening. All these people that's on this amended budget to get their jobs cut are associated with me, just as he was associated with me. So, we're talking about more. There was 3 of them as plaintiffs. We're talking about probably 7 or 8 now. So if the lawsuit was settled for that amount of money that our attorney said, we can look at probably 3 to 4 times that in regards to liability that's going to be placed on this village. Go ahead, Ed. Pay attention now and listen to this.
Another village trustee said that tough decisions have to be made in the budget and cuts must be made. Is it a coincidence that all of the major cuts were personnel cuts of myself and the other members of the team that the mayor believed could serve this village well? And thus far, I truly believe, along with the mayor and many of the residents who we see on a regular basis tell us face to face the wonderful job that we're doing. Another village trustee said that tough decisions have to be made in the budget and cuts must be made. Is it a coincidence that all of the major cuts were personnel cuts of myself and the other members of the team that the mayor believed could serve this village well? And thus far, I truly believe, along with the mayor and many of the residents who we see on a regular basis tell us face to face the wonderful job that we're doing.
He is the proponent, as you said, and the leader of this effort to get rid of these 10 employees, which, like I said before, our village attorney advised them, don't do it because it's clearly political, and it's going to cost this village a lot of money. Because if there's any precedent that has been set, he set the precedent in regards to the award that he received from this village when he sued the village. So all I'm saying is that, the final hour is October 1st. Our board meeting's at 6:30. I'd like for as many residents that can attend this board meeting to attend this board meeting, and hopefully, it hasn't worked in the past when we had a full house in regards to changing this budget to eliminate all the employees. Hopefully, at the last minute, they may hear you and say, we're going to reconsider this, and we don't want our services interrupted. But it's clearly up to the board, and it's clearly up to the vote of the board. So it was important for me to come on tonight and let our residents know exactly where we're at. And here in the next less than a week, there's going to be a decision here, and automatically the next day it will start affecting the residents' services here in the village of Dalton. So please, if you can't come out Monday night, express your concern about these services, express your concern about what's going to happen, express your concern in regards to the litigation and the cost of that litigation to the village detriment.
Thank you, Mayor Rogers.
Thank you.